Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David.
And this is the introduction to 360, part 2 of the wonderful and heartwarming and amazing session with Indrani.
Enough said.
Let's just pause for a moment here, Jill, because we've skipped over, the assessment of resistance. We didn't used to do that. You were the one who told me to do it every time we work with someone. And it was one of the best advices I've ever gotten. One of just many, many things I've learned from you, Jill, but should we go back and do that? I mean, I would be right now plunging into some 5 secrets practice and then do some externalization of voices on the daily mood log. And
the reason that I would say it's okay to skip at this point, of course, to skip assessment of resistance is, 2 things. One is that actually Indrani had told us in an email that she did a blame CBA on her own.
Oh, fantastic.
She looked at the costs and the benefits of blaming her daughter, and she thought that the benefits of blaming her daughter were 0 and the costs were 100.
Oh, okay.
She did not want to blame her daughter. And then also just in our dialogue, she was my sense was she was definitely describing in the beginning of that her daughter is pushing her away and she wasn't understanding why, but she wasn't actually really very blamey or critical. She seemed very wondering and questioning, and there wasn't a lot of this kind of blaminess that we sometimes see. So I think those things combined. And then when you asked her about step 4, just to get her to think a little bit, she wasn't resistant. She was quite the opposite. She was open, like an open flower or something. So to me, it wouldn't make sense to go backwards now that we've already gotten this kind of beautiful enlightenment, right?
There's very few people in the world who are like you, Indrani, non-defensive and open and willing to look. It's like a flower, a beautiful flower opening up. And
so what we could do then, typically, yes, we will before going to step 4, before even doing a relationship journal, we might do a blame CBA, but, or just really kind of paradox her, like, why would you want to get close to this person who's pushing you away, et cetera. But at this point, I would say we could do step 5 on the relationship journal, right? Which would be using the 5 secrets to revise her response to her daughter. And if we can get that solidified and like Indrani kind of is able to rock that, then we could go and work on some of her thoughts on the daily mood log, right?
So is it okay then, Indrani, if we just plunge ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we? The 5 secrets, so we don't need to go into reviewing all of that. Unfortunately, the general public doesn't know and probably can't appreciate all the hard work you've put in to learn how to do that. But let's capitalize on the fact that you do. And I'd propose a little thing here that Jill will be your daughter, and we'll say, to you what your daughter said to you. You don't know anything about what I do. And then I want you to respond using the 5 secrets of effective communication in whatever order you want. But that's the disarming technique. Find truth in the statement, thought and feeling empathy, paraphrase the words, acknowledge the probable feelings, inquiry, asking for more information, I feel statements, sharing your own feelings to make it genuine. You're probably feeling sad and ashamed when she says that, for example, and then stroking, showing some warmth and love and caring, and probably the order will not be in that order, and definitely the inquiry would be the last one, but you can do them in any way you want. So and then you can grade yourself. We'll grade you. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work, and do some role reversals, and see if we can get up to top quality there. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sound good to you, Jill?
Sounds great. So,
Okay.
So Indrani, we'll just give you a chance to practice the 5 secrets here. So I'll be your daughter in this role play, and David and I and everyone else will try to write down furiously what it is you say in your 5 secrets response so that we can give you some feedback. Let's imagine you've asked me about my job, right? And yeah, Mom, you don't know anything about what I do.
You're right. I don't. And I'm feeling a little sad and even a little worried, and definitely inadequate, because I don't fully understand at the same time, knowing that this was not your first choice.
Say that again, please.
And so knowing that this was not your first choice was hard for me as well. And I'm imagining you're probably feeling worried and anxious too about this, and probably pretty frustrated with me, as you should be, because I'm not doing a great job of understanding you and really listening to you. I just love you more than I can ever say, and I've seen your struggles, and I've been immensely proud of everything that you've done. But most of all, you're my baby. I just I don't know anybody else that I love more than you, and I haven't been really very open to listening to you earlier, but I'm ready now to hear what this has been for you, this kind of taking this job, and I would love to know what your thoughts are, and even how you're feeling right now.
Great. Now, that was pretty darn good. What grade would you give yourself? An A, B, C, D?
Somewhere in the B range.
And then why did you give it in the B range?
I think I didn't hit all of the feelings. I think I could have done a better job with the feeling empathy, and even maybe the I feel statement, and even the inquiry for that matter.
Okay. Should we get Jill's feedback now?
I'm happy to give feedback. And Johnny, what are you thinking?
Pardon?
What are you thinking right now? You look kind of like you're pensive.
I'm thinking that I wish I'd written it down. I can't remember what I said.
I can read it back to you.
Why don't we read it? Yeah, let's read it to Indrani. I can read it, and then David, jump in, because I'm sure I missed things because I can't write that fast. But you said something like, "You're right. I don't understand, and I feel a little sad and worried and inadequate because I don't fully understand. And knowing this was not your first choice was hard for me. I think you said as it was for you. I imagine that you're feeling worried and anxious and frustrated with me. I'm not doing a very good job of listening to you. I love you and I've seen your struggles. I'm immensely proud of what you've done. You're my baby. I think there was maybe a little more love you in there. And then I really haven't been open to listening to you. And I'm ready to hear what it's been like for you. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and feelings are and how you're feeling right now. Was that pretty much it, David?
Yes, that was almost exact.
Okay. So yeah, and Johnny, you're saying that you think you could have done better feeling empathy and inquiry. Is that kind of what your feedback to yourself was?
And I feel statement, she said also.
Well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll tell you what my feedback is. I would give you something in the B range as well. My overall feedback is it felt, I don't know if David felt this way, so I could totally be off, but it felt a little too focused on you and your experience. First of all, the tone was quite sad. And again, I don't know how your daughter would respond to that, but since you've shared that your daughter's a little bit like not all about the feelings, I don't know if that would feel like a lot to her. And then what I think is that, what I think we're trying to disarm is, you're right, I really don't know what this experience has been like for you, but then to kind of show that what you do know, right? Like it sounds like, if I really listen, it sounds like it's really disappointing to you and frustrating and feels like such a letdown that you didn't get your first choice, right? Like you've worked so hard and you're so highly accomplished and you didn't get the placement that you were really expecting. It's maybe even one of your first, like rejections in your professional life. And I can just imagine that would feel really awful for you. And I really missed the boat by trying to cheerlead and tell you it was going to be okay. That must have felt pretty terrible to hear. And then to do more inquiry, you could do some stroking. I feel sad that I've let you down because I really love you. But really, I'm glad you called me on this, bullshit cheerleading. This is an opportunity to hear what this has really been like for you. Like, I'm all ears, tell me more, which feels to me more like really focused on her, right? Just this is about how you're missing the boat and what an opportunity to hear from her. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Very helpful, because that's exactly right. It's about how disappointed and that she felt and even kind of let down and and frustrated for sure.
I think I would have given you a B plus heading in the A minus direction. Because it was really kind of a beautiful statement, certainly a great first draft. And Jill, your input was just fantastic. And then we don't want to overload you, but yes, I want to overload you, but just one or two other things that you could throw in there. I always say, what is one emotion that no therapist in the United States has ever acknowledged?
Anger.
And so you might have added that one in there. I can imagine, you feel kind of hurt and angry at two things. Not only not getting your first choice of the kind of job that you were looking for, but you just said, let me see if I can see exactly what you told me. You said, Mom, you don't know anything about what I do. And I can imagine that was also a source of disappointment and hurt and anger for you. And I've only recently realized how I've missed the boat with you too, your whole life. And I've failed you doubly, because not only have I failed to open up and let you open up and feel close, which is what I've always been yearning for, but I've been kind of pushing you away and not knowing how to get close to you. And I wouldn't be surprised if you feel hurt and lonely and even angry with me sometimes. And it's hard for me to talk about this because I love you so much. And because I've just realized that I've failed you so much. But I'm just in awe of you, and I just love you, and it breaks my heart to see you hurting because of me. And I'm wondering if what I'm saying makes sense, or does it sound totally loony, and if you can tell me how you're feeling right now. If you can tell me more, what you just said. You said, Mom, you don't know anything about what I do, and I think that's the truest thing I've ever heard, and I want to hear more. Even though it's so painful for me and maybe painful for you too. And that's just another similar version of it.
Yeah. So should we ask Indrani? I guess what I usually do when I'm practicing with therapists is kind of say, okay, if we're going to give you an opportunity to try it one more time, Indrani, what feedback do you want to try to integrate? By the way, I just noticed that you were tearful, so I should shut up and let you tell us what's going on.
Yeah, if you're tearful, just let those tears come flowing out, because that might be what your daughter needs to see also.
This is super hard for me because I hate to cry in public.
Sure, yeah.
But this is so true that I have failed her. I have. Well, it's exactly the opposite of what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I thought just I didn't even, and I don't know, I really don't know,
Yeah,
how she's felt and
yeah,
how this has been for her, and how deeply
yeah,
disappointed she must feel. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even, it totally upturned her life, actually,
yeah,
having to take this, and then I've done this just time and time and time again.
yeah. Thousands of times. Yeah. I've done that shit too. And so I feel so close to you right now. And it's so painful. Sometimes our greatest failures are our greatest successes in disguise. And I mean, what you're doing now, I'm just have about 2,000% admiration for you. And
yeah, it is so painful to see when we've been failing someone that we love.
Yeah.
It's what I always, say to my patients, and I really, really feel this, and I think David did say this before, is that it's can be so painful. And that step of taking responsibility and really seeing how you've been kind of causing the problem is so painful. But then on the flip side, it's so exciting, because if it really is what you've been doing, then it means that you could actually change it, because usually we go into these conversations about relationships thinking like this person is doing this thing happening. And so like, how in the world are we going to get someone else to change? Like, we're not, right? But if we actually hit on something and we go, oh my goodness, Andrani, like you're the one who's causing this, that means you could actually change it, which is, I think, incredibly exciting, right? Because then it's no longer her fault, which is kind of hopeless. Like, how can we change your daughter? If it's actually your fault, then you could actually, do something differently and bring about really meaningful change, which is really exciting and kind of optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, that, I mean, it's just, my heart is so heavy. I just feel like it's in my body, just
Total body experience.
yeah. And that, I feel that she was hurting because of me. Mm. I just can't even wrap my head around that. And yeah, it's so true. It is so true that, I just, that is so true. And she's hurt, disappointed about the job, but she's hurt and disappointed because I was just kind of trying to kind of brush all that to the side. And yeah, but I guess the upside to this to all of this is that I'm not feeling embarrassed now. Well,
Nice,
feeling
nice.
acutely embarrassed when we started. Acutely, I'm like, and deeply, very embarrassed and self-conscious that everybody will find out. They're going to judge me, and but I'm not feeling that at all right now.
Why not?
I don't know, Dr. Burns. Something happened.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's really neat. I love that, what you're saying. I love it. Do you want to practice again?
Yeah.
And go back to the drawing board here and see if we can fine tune our skills. But could I tell you something, Mom?
Yeah.
You don't know anything about what I do.
You're absolutely right. I don't, and not only do I not know what you do, but I haven't even taken the time to even, really think about how you felt, and if you're angry with me, you have good reason to be, because I really failed you. I failed you by not understanding and how you've been feeling all this time, and that not only were you, I'm guessing, somewhat hurt and very very disappointed, and even probably feeling rejected, and I'm unhappy with not getting your first choice, but that you're angry and frustrated with me for not understanding that, and not understanding you for all these years. And I just love you so much, and I just feel, you know, sad, but also ashamed, and I really want to know. I want to know how this experience has been for you. And I want to know. I want you to tell me more about things that I don't know and don't understand, and even about how you're feeling right now.
And then Johnny, what grade would you give yourself now for your new version?
I think my new version was a little lower than the old version. I got off track. I just felt very overwhelmed suddenly with, this feeling that it's so true. Everything that she's saying is so true. I just felt very overwhelmed that actually it's about her disappointment. It's not about me. And I got a little off track. I'm sorry.
I actually thought it was really much improved. So I don't mean to disagree with you, but yeah, maybe I can read it to you so you can listen to it. Because sometimes when we feel overwhelmed, it's almost like that out of body experience. So let's listen and see what we think. You said you're absolutely right. I don't understand what you do. And not only do I not know what you do, but I haven't even taken the time to really think about how you felt. If you're feeling angry with me for that, you have good reason to be. I really have failed you by not understanding how you've been feeling all this time. I can imagine that you've been feeling hurt and disappointed and rejected and unhappy with not getting your first choice, and then kind of angry and frustrated with me for not understanding that and not understanding you all these years. I feel sad and ashamed, and I want you to know, and I feel sad and ashamed, and I want to know more about how this experience has been for you. Can you tell me more about what I really don't know and understand about your job, and also about how you're feeling
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I thought it was really beautiful, actually. I mean, in my opinion, I thought you did a really nice disarming. I thought you took responsibility for the fact that you haven't really listened. Maybe you didn't highlight that you've been cheerleading instead. That could help for clarity, but I don't know. You acknowledged that she might be feeling angry with you, and for good reason, that you failed her by not understanding how she's been feeling. And then I thought you did some accurate feeling empathy, that she's probably been feeling hurt and disappointed and rejected and unhappy for not getting her first choice, which was very focused on her and her experience. And then that she might also be angry and frustrated with you for not getting it. And you shared your feelings. And I think there was some stroking in there, and certainly it had a very strong warmth quality to it. And then I thought your inquiry was very much inviting her to share more about what you don't know and understand, and about her thoughts and feelings. So I don't know. I would give you an A.
I gave it an A too.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say. And you also used changing the focus, like bringing the tension to conscious awareness between the two of you. Sadly, I can't see how to improve it.
Michael said, so beautiful, A++. So I guess we're not the only ones who thought it was awesome.
Yeah, you fooled three of us anyway.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Johnny?
Oh, I am just feeling so much better. I can't even tell you. I cannot even tell you. I'm just feeling enormously hopeful.
Yeah, isn't that neat? That's see, when you died a minute ago, right? That's a great death. That's the worst of the four great deaths, to my way of thinking. And now you're experiencing the great rebirth. Your death is actually your rebirth.
Yeah. And
probably sounds like baloney talk, but
no, I was so worried. I mean, before we started that, I'm not going to get to the place where you always try to take us, and it's not going to help. And I just I can feel it in my body. I feel so much better, because those thoughts that I put on my daily mood log, I believe them. I have talked about this to my husband, I don't know how many umpteen times, that going, I'm just going to die alone and all this kind of, and he would like, nah, she loves you. But I never believed that, but I do now that there is a way back. There's a path back. I thought there was absolutely no way.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
You want to see if you can blow away some of these negative thoughts?
Sure.
Okay. And we'll skip all the instructions, identifying the distortions. How about, you want to take a brutal approach? Externalization of voices?
Yep.
Okay. And so we're going to play the negative and positive in Indrani. And we're going to attack you and see if you can defeat us. Do you have your daily mood log there?
I do.
Which thought do you want to start out on first?
I was bringing it up. It's right here. Oh, I just had it open. I think the one that the one about being the first one. Let's see.
Okay, yeah. Could I talk to you? You know who I am, Indrani?
Yeah, you're my monster self that I carry with all the time.
That's right. I didn't want to upset you after you've done all that wonderful work with Jill and David and that woo-woo, idealistic shit. But I want to remind you that she thinks you don't know anything because you're not in her field. That's the one you want to work on, right?
Yeah, and number 2 as well. But it's true, I'm not in her field. But I don't, firstly, I don't know what she thinks. Secondly, she would be right to think that I don't know anything, not only in her field, but about how she is feeling. I've been missing the boat all along. But you know what? I'm feeling enormously hopeful, and I I've found a path back, and I'm going to work darn hard at it.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
No, big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Absolutely. Your turn, Jill.
That was awesome, Indrani. High five. But Indrani, your daughter has shut you and your husband out of her life.
That's true. She doesn't share much with either one of us, especially not me. But in her defense, I have to say that I was not doing a great job of really listening and understanding her and really sitting with her in those times when she felt down or depressed or angry or disappointed or rejected. She has tremendously high standards, and so I can only imagine how disappointing this must be, and I didn't do a great job of understanding that. But I now, I know differently and know better, and I'm going to not make all the mistakes, or at least not make as many mistakes as I did in the past, and just stop cheerleading her.
Awesome. So who won that, Indrani? Was that you, the positive, or me, the negative?
It was me, but I don't know if it was huge.
Okay. So it felt like a big win, but not. Or was it a big win, but not a huge win, or a small?
Yeah. It was a
try a role reversal. You want to attack Jill, or you want to attack David? Who do you want to be the positive Indrani?
I could attack you, Dr. Burns.
Okay, you want to attack me? Yeah, I
can do that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's all good and all, but she has shut you out of her life.
Oh no. That's the myth I've been giving myself, and I learned the brutal reality tonight that I've been shutting her out, and I'm going to stop doing that. But there is one person I'm going to shut out from now on. That's your bullshit. Beating up on me constantly. I'm going to just start loving my daughter and not listening to you anymore. And I'm just going to open up and stop shutting her out of my life. I'm going to express interest in her. And this has been a shameful experience for me, but a joyful one, an enlightening one.
Who won that? And explain you?
It
Or
was huge. It was a huge win. Yeah.
It was huge. Yeah.
Should we do a role reversal then and have Indrani try that one out? Right? Because we don't need David to win huge. We need Indrani to win huge.
Indrani, you know, she has shut you out of her life, and you can't deny it.
She has not. She has not. You know, she's coming next week, so she hasn't shut me out of her life. It's that I've been pushing her away, and so you know, she has. I haven't done a great job of listening and understanding her, and so she pushed me away. But I'm not planning on continuing to do that anymore. And you know, I definitely am going to work hard at understanding her and you know, sort of and connecting with her. But you know what the person I want to shut out of my life forever is you. You know, I'm so done with you. I'm done with you. You need to just get out of my head and never come back.
Who won?
It was me.
Big or small?
It felt huge.
Huge or gargantuan?
Gargantuan.
Yeah, right. Right. Are there any of these thoughts that are still bugging you?
I don't think so. I mean, I am feeling really great. I mean, I just don't feel,
So let's just have a quick final feelings here, and then we can open it up to the group and see what they think. When you filled this out, you were feeling 60% sad and unhappy. How are you feeling right now?
0.
Okay, I'll put that in the after column. You can also, if you have a way to do it, otherwise you can do it later when you listen to the audio. How your anxiety and worried was 75. How much is it now?
Maybe 5, not more than that.
And great. And the inadequacy was 75. How inadequate do you feel?
That's a 0.
Fantastic. And then the loneliness and unloved and unwanted and rejected was 90. That was the highest one of all. What's that now?
I mean, I everything is a 0. Maybe the lonely is about 5 or 10 because I haven't connected with her, but everything else is a 0.
Fantastic. And then how embarrassed and foolish are you feeling? That was 75.
I was. Maybe 2.5, 2.5.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed 2 1/4, but 2.5. That's pretty good. And then how discouraged? That was 60.
No, that's a 0.
Completely. 0. Absolutely. And frustrated and stuck and thwarted was 75.
That's a 0.
And then annoyed and irritated was 50.
It's a 0.
Okay, and then my 2 questions, and then we'll open it up to the group. We'll see, give Jill first shot. But I will say, was that change real, or are you just being not nice to us?
No, it's real.
And then, great. And then the second question is, we did a lot of different things tonight. What was the key to this really kind of a transformation that you've had? It wasn't just feeling better. It's been a kind of a profound transformation of your life. What caused that?
Yeah, I can pinpoint that. I wish I had written. I was so focused on this. I didn't fully write it down, but I did. I can tell you exactly when that happened. 2 things. One was when Jill said that, I can't even read my handwriting here. So that you're when in the I'm trying to think whether it was maybe it was just after the agenda said when she said that it was the last step, and she said that you're focusing on you, but you're not focusing on how she felt. She felt disappointed and frustrated. Yeah, that was like a Wow. That's right. Oh my God, that's right. I didn't even, I didn't think of it at all like that. And when you, Dr. Burns, said that, you see what you've been doing, you've been pushing her away. I thought my heart would explode in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty brutal, David.
No, but it was so true. It was so true. It just made sense. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You see what you've done? You've been pushing her away. And so and I'm sure there were other moments too, but these were the ones I remember. Just,
well, you've been incredibly brave and incredibly gracious tonight. You've, blown my mind and probably quite a few others tonight. Should we open it up, Jill, to group? You want to make any closing comments, Jill?
No, I mean, I will just say that, Indrani, it was such a pleasure to work with you. You were just the most beautiful patient ever. And, you're sharing so openly from the start, but also just like you could just see that it clicked, and I think it started opening up for you just with step 4 of the relationship journal, right? When David really asked you to think, the consequence, like exactly kind of what did you do and how did she respond? And like, really, do you see what you're doing? And that's sort of when we discovered that you were cheerleading and problem solving and causing her to shut down. Because when someone is upset about something, they don't want to be cheerleaded and problem solved. And then that further played out, like your step 1 of your step 5 of the relationship journal was good, but it wasn't quite there because you were still missing, as we said, that tuning into how hard this experience was for her. Right. So yeah, it was really exciting to see you so insightful and so totally getting it. So thank you.
It was great. It was a gift. Thank you.
Well, we're open up now to the group, and you can make comments. You can ask questions. We'll go as long as we need to 7:30 if we need, or if you finish sooner, we can stop sooner. Make sure you all give your feedback on the group tonight, because it's rate the group and tell us what you like the least and what you like the most, and all of that, because that's really, really helpful to us. But let's maybe
so questions or comments or feedback, right?
Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi. I just been so moved by this process today, Indrani. I was just so, wow, you just wowed me. I'm actually really sad by some of the experiences you had as a childhood that kind of cultivated that self-image, and kind of really moved by your opening up and sharing about it, and kind of hoping to see you coming, the end of it. And your aha moment was like, whoa, it's just so beautiful to see it in your eyes.
Amber.
Hi, Indrani. Thank you so much for sharing. I am not a biological mom, but I am an only child of my mother's. Mm-hmm. And I have very unique relationships. There's so much pressure, right? Because it's like you have that one child, you have that one relationship with your mom, and you just gave me so much empathy for my mother and are going to help me be a better daughter. And I just admire you for wanting to do this work and to stepping into it and sharing it with all of us. So congratulations. And I love the part when you're like, I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with that voice. So
wasn't that cool?
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can be at the bottom, 5 of my class and be proud.
Yeah. we bottom dwellers of the world have to reunite. Dipti. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Amy.
Yes, Indrani, I just too wanted to share how, first of all, how sad I was hearing the experiences that you had as a kid, being called dumb.
Elephant.
Yeah, my heart just broke hearing that you experienced that. and also how sort of surprised I was hearing that you were called those names and that you had that experience in college. I am remembering that in some of the interactions I've had with you, I've sort of felt as if you've maybe sort of put me, because I went to medical school, into that category of talented or smart, and yourself in that dumb role. And that has, I've felt sad about that. And I just wanted to share with you that when I was in medical school, I actually had sort of a similar experience to you, where because I talk so slowly, do everything so slowly in medicine, speed is really valued. If you do things quickly, you're a good doctor, and if you're slow, you're not. And so I got that same sort of labeling of being slow. And
come to the point, girl. Come to the point.
Okay.
That type of thing, right?
Yeah. So I just really related to that and felt so sad for you, and also just so admiring of your courage tonight. And yeah, I just love you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I love you too. And this has been great. It's been a gift from everyone, and I'll cherish it, and I'll remember this probably for the rest of my life. So thank you.
Thank you.
So beautiful, Amy. This is fantastic. And Sean.
Yeah, I appreciate just you sharing and being open, and it was just it was sad for me just to really hear you talk about your childhood experiences. I don't normally use this phrase that much. I think I hear Jill use it, but I did feel like I wanted to give out and just hug you at that moment, because you're just an incredible, amazing person, and to hear you talk about all those things that were happening. But I think the things that really stuck out to me when you were, especially with David, was especially when you said, like, what did that really mean? You don't know anything about what I do. I thought that was really powerful. You really got her to really explore and think about that. And then when Jill got into that, her feedback about how she was focusing more on herself, and especially the feelings part, because she was really personalizing it, because she could tell her daughter is not a really touchy-feely person. And so you might want to kind of reduce some of the touchy-feely stuff and just stick to the point. I just thought that was really powerful to me. And just one last thing was I was thinking in the back of my mind was the identifying the distortions part, the personalization, self-blame, because I felt like Andrani was taking a lot of responsibility for the situation. And when I think about my wife, my parents-in-law had a very similar style where they were constantly raising the bar, and they had 3 kids that ended up getting into the top schools in the country. And 2 of them are very close to their parents, and the other one almost never talks to them. And so it just makes me wonder about, is it just a personality style? And maybe there was some influence, but maybe you're putting a lot more than just more self-blame than what's necessary. I don't know. That was just what's crossing my mind in terms of the distortion aspect of it. But again, just thank you for sharing.
And thanks for giving us a male point of view here tonight, because we guys have feelings too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, I think there was someone else in the chat box. I'd have to go back, but I remember one of the dads. Oh, Michael Sylvester.
Oh,
said,
yeah.
I did the same with my son today. So yes, we did. I had the sense that we were not only failing mothers, but failing fathers in this group as well.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, good comment. Ed.
Let's see, Andrani, thank you so much for tonight. It was just boy, I don't know. It was very, very, very moving, very emotional. I even felt myself, I mean, obviously you can tell I'm pretty moved and pretty just sad to hear all of the things that you had to go through. And I kind of went back and forth between feeling really sad and really even angry at all the people, including that teacher who gave that test and gave you the feedback in such kind of a cruel and harsh way. And I actually do have a question, but I just wanted to thank you first so much for such a deeply emotional night. So I guess my question, I did have a moment about the interpersonal enlightenment moment, as we were kind of calling it. And I felt like there was this moment where you kind of looked up and your eyes like darted back and forth for like 7 seconds. And that was it. And then all the neural pathways in your head that had previously been about defending yourself and looking at it through your point of view, it just all switched and it went in this other direction, and it happened so quickly. And I don't know if you can talk about that moment much, or I just want to know what happened there.
Thank you, Ed. I can't remember exactly the sequence of events or what happened, but I think that suddenly when Dr. Burns said that, you know what you've done, right? You know why she would be feeling lonely and rejected. And I was still kind of in my head, saying, oh yeah, because I'm not, have not been giving her warmth. And it just didn't, that transition from my head to my heart still hadn't happened. I'm like, yes, I'm not. And I was kind of going through my head of, the 5 secrets checklist to see all the mistakes that, I made, I didn't include. And then he said that, yeah, but it's because you pushed her away. It was like, wow, something like a puzzle piece suddenly fell into place. And it was like, wow, that's right. That was the missing piece. And then it just, that was it. That's why. And then when Jill said, it's because you're not focusing on how she felt. And it was exactly right for the person that she was. And Jill just nailed it. And she's 100% right about that. 100. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or not, Ed, but I can tell you that it was a very visceral, it was in my body. It wasn't,
Was it painful? Was it hopeful? Or was it both at the same time?
Yeah, initially it was very painful. That how can that even be, And it just clicked because one of the things that I wrote in my daily mood log, no matter what I do, it doesn't please her. And what I have been doing is just flooding her with gifts. And then when she doesn't respond to that, I think that, oh, she's ungrateful. She doesn't appreciate. She doesn't know how hard I work, all of that stuff. And in that moment, it's like, no wonder. Of course she won't. That makes sense. I'm just grateful that she didn't send all the gifts back and return them. So so to that extent, in that moment, it was painful. But then I felt encouraged and hopeful because now I have a way back. I thought I was shut out and I'm going to have to live on the other side of the wall forever and die there. But it felt incredibly hopeful.
Great. Thanks so much, Indrani.
Thank you.
I have a quick question we have one more here. Michelle.
And I just have a question because you said about that moment that it's, you were talking just now about it being very painful, but the joy was in the fact that now you had a direction. Is that, because my fear, because, I've been a less than perfect parent too, and my fear is always that I have a lot of guilt. And what struck me tonight is that the guilt wasn't there. And I was just wondering, like, how did she do that? Like, how did she say that, oh, yeah, I made this mistake, but I don't feel the guilt isn't there? Is it because you have the way forward? Can you explain that to me?
That's a great question. And thank you, Michelle. That's a really great question. Somehow that guilt just dropped off. That guilt has been eating me up alive. And somehow that just dropped off. I think I could, when I saw what I had been doing that created her to shut me out, somehow that guilt dropped off. I don't know if Dr. Burns
when you saw and accepted that you were a total failure, you weren't a failure anymore suddenly. That's the acceptance paradox.
Yeah.
So when you accepted it, it wasn't true anymore. You were already on the new path. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, that's how I experienced it. I mean, I'm amazed that I can laugh about being in that bottom 5 of that class. I can't believe it, because this happened in the early 80s, and how many years has it been? A whole generation has come since then. I've never talked about this because I felt so deeply ashamed of it. And now I'm like, oh yeah, bottom 5 and proud. So somehow, I think when you accept, you're right. I mean, I can't explain it better than Dr. Burns, but that's how I experienced that, Michelle.
Well, before we close off here, Jill, do we have any homework for Indrani? Certainly to listen to the to watch this thing on your own. And I was also wondering if you would have an interest, and this would be your call, but would it be something you'd want to watch with your daughter? Maybe that's a terrible idea. I have no idea, but
so we can let Indrani respond to that piece. It seems like, number one, she would watch it herself. Number two, she would talk to her daughter using
that's right.
secrets of effective communication. So maybe you're saying, instead of actually having to talk to her daughter directly, they would watch it together, and then she could also talk to her about it directly. But I think either one, like, I don't think you would have to watch it with her, but you definitely homework would be having a conversation with her. I think you said she's coming in a week or two, so maybe
she's coming next week. Mm-hmm.
I think there are 2 different ways to do this in general. When we work with someone in the 5 secrets, one obviously would be that you would proactively talk to her and essentially disarm, just in general, that oftentimes don't know what's going on with her, and jump to problem solving and cheerleading too quickly, and that you realize that and want to work on it, et cetera. Or we could just say, next time you're in her presence and she's sharing something with you, like, work your damnedest to use thought and feeling, empathy and disarming and stroking, right? And sort of just be really empathic and present, and try really hard not to, pinch yourself when you start cheerleading, or put reminders around your house to not to cheerlead and problem solve. Indrani, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could go with any of the options. I am pretty confident that, even though I feel incredible, but I am sure I'll make some mistake and she will get bristly again. So that will give me an opportunity to practice this. I could also sort of proactively ask her, and I think watching this with her would be really powerful.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be cool. And hearing this from you, Dr. Burns and Jill, I mean, I think I'll offer it to her, but if she declines that offer, I still have a plan B and C.
Yeah. So, cool. Any words from you, Kai?
Yeah, well, I just feel so much closer to you, Indrani. And honestly, if you were my mom and my mom was able to take the level of accountability that you showed tonight, I would feel a lot closer to her. And so I think it was really powerful when you admitted that you were failing her, because I think kids always want their parents to admit their failures. But sometimes parents, they're so scared to do that.
Yeah.
because like you raised us kids, and you want the best for us, and but sometimes it comes across selfishly, like like you're my property, you're the thing that's supposed to succeed me or whatever. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But it was really cool, everything that you did. So thank you, Indrani.
Thank you, Kai.
I think this was one of our most wonderful evenings ever, although I can't minimize the others, because every time we do it, I say this is the most wonderful one ever.
Yeah,
But this
right,
one really
exactly.
seems like the most wonderful, because we saw enlightenment clearly happening right before our eyes, and that's what enlightenment is. That as far as, I mean, who am I to know? But
yeah, it was a beautiful night.
It was
so
fantastic.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it with all of you.
All righty. Well, good night, everybody. See you all soon. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jill and Indrani and Rhonda. And let's first of all let's see what's happened. We're all waiting with bated breath. Did Indrani find the courage to open up to her daughter? And if so, what happened? And then we'll also get everybody's perceptions on the session, because there was so many fantastic teaching points, none of which I can remember at the moment, but I know that Jill will be loaded with them, and Rhonda and Indrani. So tell us, first of all, how you're doing since the live session, and what's happened. I understand your daughter came to visit you, and some interesting developments there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing really, really well. Feeling enormously better, just overall, but also about my relationship with my daughter. So yes, as you mentioned, Dr. Burns, she did visit us last week, and she stayed for a few days, and about 3 or 4 days. And I actually, even though I felt lighter and more relaxed around her, really was not, didn't quite muster up the courage to have the talk. But then I listened to another podcast of yours and Rhonda's on Monday morning. That was yesterday morning. And then I called her. And last night, late in the evening, I had the most meaningful conversation of my entire life. And it started out as usual. She's like, "What do you want?" Kind of her usual prickly self, and okay, get to the point kind of thing. And then I told her that, I basically just told her that I had rethought our last talk about the job situation, her new job. And I wanted to kind of revisit that and all the realizations that I've had since then. And it was quite remarkable, because she said, "Yes, that is absolutely right. You never took me seriously. You always thought that I was still a child or in school." And you considered other family members' opinions over mine, kind of her contemporaries, like her cousins and things like that. And I was, I just listened, and it was so illuminating, because I didn't know any of this. I had no idea. And I asked her, and kind of probably didn't do an A+, 5 secrets revised response, but it probably was a B or B-, but it still was pretty powerful. And and I kind of continued to do the feeling empathy and the thought empathy and the stroking and of course the disarm and lots of inquiry. And she told me everything. She opened up, she talked, she gave me examples. I was like blown away. And
examples of times that you had not listened or thought that you could do better or something like that, like that.
Yeah, because I made some glaring errors, and it was so cool because I heard Rhonda make the same errors. Of course, she recovered from it, but that helped the process along almost. And she did give me examples. So she told me that, yes, you're right. I mean, this is what absolutely, you did not take me seriously. And then also she said that you did not treat me like an autonomous being. And which was, it was like, wow, like a gut punch. But and then she went on to give me examples. And this was the first time in her entire life that she spoke about her, how she felt in that moment. And I was just blown away. And I started out asking in the beginning that, can you give me some specific examples? And she kind of rolled over that, which made sense to me that, it's not, but then she actually proceeded to give me those examples. And then, and she told me things that I had no idea about. And so this was just one of the most profound conversations that I had. And it was ironic because, I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of notes to write. And I actually, after about 45 minutes, it was getting late. And I said, I kind of had to go. Usually she's the one who's, I gotta go. But she could have continued for, for longer, but I had to go. But we kind of ended on a very sweet note. And I, it's not, we're not there yet, but we are well on the way to healing this relationship, well on the way. I just can't wait to see how this will unfold. And every assumption that I had made about her, including her job, was wrong. And she was absolutely right that I had no idea. She was 100% right on that. So, yes. So thank you. Thank you, Dr.
And it was like
Jill.
some sort of a, self-fulfilling prophecy or cycle whereby she would, say you have no idea, and you would kind of maybe protest or act like you did have some idea, which made her shut down and not want to share more. And right. And it was, I'm guessing that it was just your openness, like your being willing to kind of fall on your sword and disarm and just want to hear all of the ways in which you've been missing the boat and failing her that allowed her to open up and share all of that with you.
Exactly. And I actually used those words that I failed you. And I didn't do it in a self-blame way, but I did say it kind of in a, very sort of connecting and caring way.
Yeah.
And I failed you. I realized that this is what I've been doing all of your life. I've been pushing you away. And I understand now why, you were not sort of exuberant about the gifts I gave you, or you did, had kind of a muted response. I understand fully now. And Jill, I just wanted to thank you for this particular point, and that was that you when we were doing the practice, sort of the role play practice in the personal work, you said, well, focus on the feeling empathy, focus, and that's exactly what landed. That is exactly what landed, and that so this was incredible. This was a huge gift, and I can't thank you enough for it. I cannot thank you enough for it.
Ronnie, it seemed like in the work that you were doing with Jill and David that you were practicing a 5 secrets, and it seemed like there was another pivotal moment when Jill said, and I'm paraphrasing, that you're focusing more on your feelings than your daughter's feelings.
Yes.
Tell us how that moment impacted you.
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. And it was, I just didn't realize that. I had no idea. It was like she was holding up a mirror to me, that I didn't see the sort of the blemishes on my face because I couldn't see that. And when she held it up, I'm, oh yeah, that's exactly right. And I told my daughter that I made it about me. And I didn't sort of realize that, and I gave you no compassion, I didn't focus on how you might have felt in that moment. And that was super powerful. And she responded to that right away. So yes, that was a pivotal moment. Absolutely.
It's just fantastic what happened, and most of our listeners won't be able to see the video, and I don't know how well it came across on audio. Maybe we'll be able to get it on video one of these days. I'm not sure, but the moment when you really experienced the death of yourself, you had a moment of suddenly seeing and shock, really. And, we were able to see you as that moment was there, and you could have descended into hell at that moment. And I think briefly probably did, but then suddenly, like you were enlightened, like your eyes had been opened for the first time. Do you remember that moment and how you experienced that?
Clearly. And I remember, yes, absolutely. And it came at the time, Dr. Burns, when you said, do you realize what you've been doing? You know what you've been doing? Something like that. Do you know what you've been doing? Do you see what you've been doing? And I'm like, well, what? I was kind of trying, scratching my head, trying to figure out what was I doing? Was I not, a good enough mother specifically? And then you said you've been pushing her away. You've been pushing her away. Each time she tried to open up, you pushed her away, and it came to me as a shock. It was like a huge, like, what? That's just exactly the opposite of what I want. I want closeness, but yet I've been doing this. And in that moment, it just dawned on me that, yep, now that makes sense. I kind of forced her to shut down. I forced her to, withdraw. And it was very painful, but it also just illuminating and enlightening all at the same time.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that? I'm just fascinated by your words. Like I wanted closeness, and yet I forced her to shut down. I pushed her away practically every interaction I ever had with her, and it's such a shock about human nature, how we create our own negative reality, our interpersonal hell, that the very thing we're complaining about. And I say that a lot, and people, it goes in one ear and out the other, but you really saw it, yeah, and surrendered to it. And it's painful at the moment because it's the death of your ego, the death of yourself. You say, oh my gosh, look what I've been doing. But if you're willing to do that, to look at yourself, then you realize you're far more powerful than you thought. And if I have the power to push her away, I have the power to open up and let her come close to me. So it, as you say, Jill, it's simple, and yet most people don't want to hear it and don't want to experience it. I think most people.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was amazing to see the shock and the pivot that occurred for Indrani, who felt like her daughter was constantly pushing her away. And then in one moment saw, oh my God, I've been doing it. And it was amazing because you were so humble, and it was really beautiful because you were so motivated to see your role. And that's where David pointed out, oftentimes we do a lot of melting away resistance. We look at reasons, good reasons to blame the other person, etc. And because in Johnny, it was clear from the very beginning, you were like, I want to see my role. I want to know. And when you saw your role, you were like, I got to figure out how to do this differently. There was no defensiveness that came up. And so it was just so clear to us that you were ready, to work on it. But it was interesting, actually, even though we did kind of point it out to you. And I think what we specifically were pointing out was a combination of sort of like a cheerleading, right? Kind of like, oh, it's going to be okay. And also a little bit, it's interesting that your daughter said that almost like you didn't treat her as an autonomous being, because you said something, she's like, you don't know anything about this. And you were like, well, I have a friend who does this. So it was like a little bit of you being in the expert role and you being a cheerleader, both of which would clearly make someone want to shut down, right? But it was interesting too, as you pointed out, that even when you did see it, so seeing it is like step one, right? Caring enough to want to see your role, and then seeing your role, and then still the 5 secrets, your first your first revision was good, but not A+, right? And then it was that revised response that focused much more on your daughter's feelings and your daughter's experience, right? That kind of where you were able to hit a home run. Yeah.
It's absolutely right. Exactly right. And I mean, I was doing a combination of cheerleading and sort of I'm the expert. I know all these, people, so I should know better. And also, here, let me tell you how to fix it.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not doing this right.
Problem solving, right?
Problem solving, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember since she was in 5th grade, I mean, and I told her, I talked to her about it, so I was exactly doing what Dr. Burns said. Just every interaction I had pushed her away. This makes me sad to think about it.
One other teaching point that David, I think, is so important is that what's also really fascinating is we do the relationship journal, right, with one moment in time. So we asked Indrani, tell us one thing she said and one thing you said that didn't go so well. And then what always happens, and what was so clearly happening in this case, is it's one moment in time. But as you say, David, it's like a microcosm of like all moments with this person. And so we helped Indrani with literally one moment in time, but she repeatedly has been saying, this is across every interaction with my daughter, right? Like every time this is what I did, and for years and years and years. So it's also so kind of amazing that we can use these tools that you've developed, David, to help one person in one moment, and that it really does help them, across the board in this relationship.
Yeah. Now here's a fun little thought experiment. A good 20,000 people will hear this podcast right now, us talking. And we've just said that all you have to do if you want to understand your conflict with any person is write down one thing the other person said and exactly what you said next. The relationship journal is a good way of doing that. And then circle the feelings that you think the other person had, circle your own, and then use the EAR, the ear checklist. Did you empathize? Did you share your feelings? Did you treat the other person with warmth, love, or respect? And you'll get a no, no, no. And then if you look at your response, you should be able to figure out how you're actually forcing the other person to treat you that way. And that's the death of the self. And if you're willing to experience that great death, then you'll have the great rebirth. In this case, the chance for a true loving relationship. Now, here's my thought question. Of those 20,000 people, how many do you think are going to do that?
Not many, I'm thinking.
Like 3 at most. And that's to me is also weird. Why do we keep creating our own interpersonal hell? All of us do that. And then when given, here's the tool to get love instead of distance and hatred, and then nobody wants to pick up that tool and use it. I'm sounding pretty weird and elderly and demented and corny right now, but why is that?
Yeah. Because people want to be right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We want to blame other people.
Yeah.
And want to be right. And
right.
So defensiveness is so woven into the fabric of everyone, it appears, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. People are afraid to kind of put down their defenses and just take a look in the mirror, as you said, Indrani, and go, like, it's all me. I got to figure this out. How can I be different in this relationship?
Yeah. So you're our teacher, Indrani. You're the trailblazer, and we hope you'll have many followers who will have the courage to do what you did. And I've sometimes said your worst failure is your greatest triumph in disguise. And what a huge triumph this has been for you and for your daughter and for potentially, many people listening to the show. But my book that shows exactly how to do this, Feeling Good Together, my worst selling book of all time.
Really?
Well, yeah. I knew that people wouldn't like it because it's not what people want to hear.
Love it. I told you it's my favorite, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that I kept on my bedside when I first started learning this. And every time I would have a little, not even a conflict, but like in my own mind, a conflict or a disappointment or disagreement with someone, I would pick it up and figure out how to do it differently. And like, I would look at the second half of the book I love because there's chapters about like how to deal with someone who's competitive and how to deal with someone who's narcissistic. And it's like, you can find the conflict in the book and literally learn how to interact differently with that person to change the relationship. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind words. And I hope some of you who are listening will maybe pick it up or to be willing to take a look at your relationships, because once you've experienced love and hatred, love really really is a lot of fun, and hatred sucks, and mistrust and arguing sucks, and yet the world seems addicted to mistrust and arguing and defensiveness and doing battle. But there, we do have a little candle here in the darkness you can light and find your way. And we sure wish you, all the love and luck and warmth in the world, and Indrani. And thank you so much for you worked a miracle for yourself and for your daughter, and hopefully for a few of our listeners too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borovsky, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.